Hello, my name is Kennedy and I'm going to be filming my book haul today. I've only posted 2 videos ever and they were months ago, which was not planned, but then I filmed those, I think it was in January, and then my roommate never left my room after that. Basically, she was always there, and I got very busy, so I just didn't have the chance to film more videos, at least comfortably. But yeah, now I am back into my house at home, obviously. So I have moved out of college for the summer, and my room is a mess because I just had to move my entire life back here. But yeah, so that's why we're secluded to this little corner of my room. But I figured to jump back into making videos, even though I never really made a ton. I've only made 2 again. Anyway, I'm rambling, but we're gonna talk about all of the books I've acquired this year, which I'm not going to lie, is quite a few. It's a lot more than I thought. But I like reading books just as much as I like buying books, which I know is a problem. But it's okay. Let's just dive in because I do have a lot of books to get through, and I will try and go somewhat in order of how I acquired them, but at the same time I already realized that these are not in order. So I'm just gonna pick them up and show you all of the books. Okay, so I want to start first by talking about these 4 books. I got all of these on a little date day that I went on with my partner. We basically went all around Chicago. Oop, there's a little hair flying around. We went all around Chicago finding these cute little bookstores, and we found one that basically you got to choose the price of the books. That was the first one we went to. So I got Well Matched and Well Played by Jen DeLuca, which I just realized I said those out of order, but that's okay. This one's first, or second. Yeah, so I got these 2 books. These are the next 2 books in the series after Well Met by Jen DeLuca. I cannot talk. Oh my gosh, this is bad. I read that book a couple years ago now and I loved it. It's a romance set at the Renaissance Fair, and the author came out with more books in the series, and since I saw these for really cheap, I figured why not. They were only listed for $4 a piece, and then you that's the recommended price, but you can also choose the price, and I just paid the recommended price because $4 for each of these is already a steal. So then we found a free bookstore, so I got a book by Sophie Jordan, who I've read from before and really loved her writing. So I got How to Lose a Bride in One Night, which honestly not too sure what that's about. I just know that I love Sophie Jordan and it was free. And then I got Devil in the White City by Erik Larson, which is a nonfiction book about a serial killer in Chicago, I believe. So very excited for this. My partner recommended this book to me back when we first started dating, and it kind of just seemed like fate to find it on our little adventure day. So very excited to read this. I want to try to read more nonfiction this year, but I feel like I say that every year and it doesn't happen. So hopefully this year it actually happens. Okay, so the last book that I got on our little adventure day in Chicago was The Boy in the Striped Pajamas by John Boyne. Now, I read this back in 8th grade. My school kind of did a genocide unit in our English classes, so we all learned about a different genocide, and I learned about the Holocaust and everything, and we had to read a book about it and present about it, and I never got to own a physical copy of this book. And I think that it's a very beautiful but absolutely heartbreaking story. But this book in particular is about these 2 little boys, and One of them is a Jewish child in a concentration camp, but you kind of realize that they don't fully know like the extent of their circumstances. This is also a movie that I would highly recommend. I honestly think I prefer the movie because it just goes into a few different topics. I don't know, I really like both the movie and the book, so I would recommend both of them to you guys if you're looking for a historical fiction pick. Okay, so then I got a couple different romances from, well, the first one's from Barnes & Noble, and then I got the rest from Amazon. So the first book I got is Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. This was a beautiful, beautiful romance book. It's a second chance romance about this couple who they have been together for years and years, and they have 2 kids together, and they own a restaurant, and they start going through some marital issues related to problems with conceiving and having more kids. So trigger warning for stillbirth, miscarriages, anything under that umbrella. This was one of the most realistic depictions of a romance in terms of like later in life romances. Just so beautiful. I teared up while reading this. I highly recommend it. It was my first ever book by Kennedy Ryan, and I will definitely be reading more from her. Okay, so then I saw a bunch of people talking about this series on Instagram, and it's so bad, but I bought the entire series. Well, I did read it first on Kindle Unlimited, and then I bought them because I was just so in love. And that is the Eden series by Devney Perry. So the first one I read was Christmas in Quincy, which is a novella, and it's very cute. It's a bodyguard romance. And then we have Indigo Ridge, which in my opinion it gets too much hate. This is one of my favorite books in the series. The main female character is the new chief of police, talks a lot about gender roles in society and how people underestimate her because she is a woman, but she's fully capable. There is this pattern of suicides in this town, and then she believes that they aren't actually suicides because of the way they're happening. She thinks that there might be something else going on, but people don't believe her because she's a woman. They're like, no, it's suicide. Like, just don't look into it. It's so good. I loved this book as well. I will talk more about these in my wrap-up that I do, but yeah. There's also Juniper Hill, which is a single parent romance. This was beautiful. I get the hype for this one. It's super cute. Absolutely loved it. And then we have Garnet Flats, which is a second chance romance. And then I did also buy Jasper Vale. I have not read this one yet because there was a break between when I finished the books and when this book was going to come out. So I still have to read this, but I'm very excited. Oh my gosh, so I'm all over the place. I did forget to include this book in the Chicago, like, book haul part. I did get this book in one of the bookstores in Chicago too. The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill, which is a middle grade, which I don't usually read, but I feel like if I were to like a middle grade, it would be this one because it just seems very whimsical and just magical. And yeah, so I did pick this one up, and I forgot to, I just hit my face. I did forget to mention this one in the earlier part of this video. Okay, the next book is The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. This is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, which I don't own her other books in the Barnes & Noble editions, but I just thought that this black cover was so pretty. This is the spin-off to the Cruel Prince series by Holly Black. I love the Cruel Prince series. I know that it's not the most perfect series on the planet, but I do think that it's just a very fun time. I love fairies and all of that, so I'm really excited to get to this book. I haven't yet just because honestly for the longest time I left it at home and I was at school, so didn't really get a chance to, but I'm really hoping to get to this summer. And yeah, I don't know too much about it. I literally just know that it's a spin-off of the Cruel Prince series and that it follows Oak, who was a child in that series, so I'm excited to get to see him all grown up. Okay, the next book, my partner went to Barnes & Noble and he was like, okay, you get to pick out like any book that you want, and so I decided to get The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie, which is a grim dark fantasy, which I feel like I don't read a lot of, but it's a genre that's always really interested me. And I've heard nothing but good things about Joe Abercrombie. I'm so excited to read this. Again, this is a book I'm hoping to read this summer. It is a little bit on the chunkier side, but honestly, I think I can read this. The only thing is that it's, I know it's more character driven than plot driven, which, don't get me wrong, I would rather have a character driven story than one that's just like all plot and no character development. So I'm excited for this, but I just feel like I have to be in the right mood for a really character driven story, if that makes sense. Okay, so then I went to the Half Price Books that's by my house when I was visiting home one weekend. My sister and I went to Half Price Books and they had some really good finds for the graphic novel and manga section. So the first one that I found was Delicates, which is the sequel to Sheets. It's just a really cute graphic novel series about a little ghost, and I freaking loved the first volume of this, and I just like never got around to buying the sequel. So this fall I'm definitely going to reread the first book, Sheets, and dive into the second book, Delicates, because it's just one of the cutest, most wholesome little stories about a ghost, and it's just like the perfect little fall read. And the art style is really cute. I like the color story too. It's just different from what I'm used to. And yeah, I was just so happy to find this because it was just such an unexpected find. Oh my gosh, my voice keeps cracking. Then I also found Sweat and Soap Volume 4, which is a series I've actually been making my way through. I read most of this series from Barnes & Noble. I just didn't buy them. I have the first 3 volumes, so it's actually perfect that they had Volume 4. So I'm slowly collecting the series and I'm very, very excited to one day own the whole series. It's one of my favorite manga series, especially when it comes to romantic slice of life type of stories. And the last find at Half Price Books was Komi Can't Communicate Volume 1. This is a series I've been interested in for quite a while now because I know it's about a main character who is socially anxious and just has a hard time making friends and all of that. And I'm a very awkward person and just very introverted, so I felt like I would connect well to this series, and I was glad to find the first volume because I feel like it's pretty rare to find a first volume at a used bookstore. I'm very excited to read this one. So next up, actually Amazon was having their like buy one get one 50% off like book sale or something like that. And I found 2 books that I was really interested in, so I got those. So the first book I got was The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, which I actually started this and was really liking it, but then my loan for the audiobook ran out, and I need to finish this because I was loving it. It's about a woman who's a ghostwriter for this one author, and she has like a new boss who is kind of like grumpy but really attractive, and then that boss dies and his spirit like is just constantly around her. I don't know. Again, I need to finish this. It was very good from what I read, and even just talking about it now, I'm like, how did I not finish this book? But if you haven't read this yet, from what I read, it was very good and very cute. So the next book that I got with that same sale was Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. I absolutely love this series. I've read the first 3 books and I basically like binged them back to back, and then I had to wait for this book, and surprise surprise, I haven't read this one yet. Once it finally came out, I did try to read it, but it was just not what was calling to me at the moment. But again, this is a book that I'm hoping to read this summer. Okay, so for the next books, they're all by the same author. 3 of them were pre-orders, 1 of them was not, so I'll go with the one that wasn't first. So I did pick up Chain of Thorns, which is the 3rd book in the Dark Whoa. Not the Dark Artifices. This is the 3rd book in the Last Hour series, which is one of my favorite series by Cassandra Clare. I love Cassandra Clare. She's one of my favorite authors, especially when it comes to YA fantasy. She like basically got me into that genre. I can't wait to read this, but I'm not emotionally ready for it, or at least I wasn't until probably somewhat soon. I will read it. And then these next 3 I did technically buy last year, but I'm going to include them in this haul because I acquired them. Like, they actually came in the mail this year. So the first one is the Waterstones exclusive edition of Chain of Thorns, which is very beautiful. It's this very nice like maroon color, and it is signed. Again, love Cassandra Clare. I'm so happy to have this edition in my hands. Again, love the color and everything. And then I also did get the Illumicrate version, which is the pink version, which is just so beautiful. The last pre-order from Cassandra Clare that I had was the new edition of City of Bones, which is beautiful. So now we're moving on into some fantasy reads. So my partner got me 2 fantasy, or he bought me a lot of books. I love that man so much. The first one I have is The Traitor Baru Cormorant, I can never say that, by Seth Dickinson, which is a hyper political fantasy story. I don't know too much about it other than I know that Reagan from Peruse Project loves this book, so I really wanted to read it. I did start it. I got just a little bit of the way through. You can kind of see my bookmark there. And then I fell into a reading slump, but I will definitely be getting back to that very soon because it's very interesting. And I have The Hod King by Josiah Bancroft, oh my gosh, which is the 3rd book in the Tower of Babel series, which I absolutely flew through and loved the 1st book. And then my library had the 2nd but not the 3rd book, so that's why we bought the physical copy of the 3rd book. And then I also did get the entire trilogy from Olivia Atwater. I don't remember what the series is called. Oh, the Regency Fairy Tales. So I have Half a Soul, which is one of my favorite books I've read so far this year. The fairy book about a girl who gets involved with a fairy and he takes half her soul, and very cute. Loved the romance. Flew through that book, and then because I loved that one so much, we did get 10,000 Stitches as well as Long Shadow, which are the next books, which I am in the middle of 10,000 Stitches, which it's very good. If you're looking for like cottagecore, fun fantasy books about fae, I would highly recommend this series. I've absolutely been loving it. And then kind of in that similar vein, I basically went down a spiral of getting a bunch of whimsical fairy cottagecore vibes books. Not all of these are fairy, but they all kind of give me the similar vibe. So the first one that I got next was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett, which is one of my favorite books I've read so far this year. I can't wait to talk about this to you guys in my wrap-up. But yes, if you haven't read this yet and you like books about fairies, I highly suggest it. I literally cannot wait for the 2nd book to come out. And then I did also get Wayward by Amelia Hart. Again, one of my favorite books of the year so far. So freaking good. Also, how beautiful is this cover? This is like a historical book about women with magic, and it's very feminist, and I love it. I have The Beautiful Ones by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, which is a Regency style novel with slight magic, I believe. I have not read this one yet, but I'm very excited to. It just sounds very whimsical and, again, cottagecore type vibes. And then I have The Inheritance of Arcadia Divina by Zoraida Cordova. I hope I said that right. Which is another book about magic, and it's about this grandmother who passes away, and it's about the inheritance that she gives to her children, which I believe possibly is like a magical inheritance. I am not sure, but I've heard that this book is really good. And then I also got The London Seance Society by Sarah Penner, which is a witchy, whimsical book. Can't wait to read it. Hopefully gonna read this soon as well. Okay guys, we are in the home stretch. We're almost to the end. This is a long video. I apologize. The next books that I got, I did get the box set of the first 4 books in the Bridgerton series. I did fly through the 2 seasons that are currently on Netflix last month, literally all like within Easter weekend. I watched the 2 seasons. I'm sorry, I cannot talk. But it made me obsessed. It's like my new comfort series, so I wanted to read the books to anticipate the next season. But yeah, so I'm going to hopefully read that series soon. I did also get Her Night with a Duke by Diana Quincy because I was craving more Bridgerton style historical romances, so I got that. I got A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, which is a book that my boyfriend picked out for me to read because he knows I was interested in it, and so we got this one, and I'm very excited to read it. Well, okay, excited is I am looking forward to reading this book, but I also know it's going to make me cry because everyone says that this is like one of the saddest books of all time. But I also cannot wait to read it at the same time, even though it will most likely make me cry. And then for our anniversary, or one of the gifts that my partner got for me for our anniversary was Empire of Exiles by Aaron M. Evans, which he knows is a book that I've been really wanting to read, especially after seeing Reagan from Purse Project again recommend it and say it's one of her new like favorite fantasy books. So I've been really wanting to read it. It's got like mystery in it, and it's just like a nice new fantasy series, which I'm very excited for. And then the last book, finally, that I got, which I'm so excited about, is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix, and it is a signed copy, and I just have to show you guys because the gasp that I gasped when I opened this book and figured out it was signed because I'm stupid and I didn't see that right away. But he wrote "Boo" with a question mark, and he put a little ghost, and I'm just like, oh, I'm so excited. I love Grady Hendrix's books, and this is his new release, and I can't wait to read it. I seriously want to read this right now, but I have to finish my current reads plural before I dive into another book, but I am so excited for this. And yeah, those are all of the books I've acquired this year. I know it's a lot. I am now on a book buying ban, and I did just get a new job, which I'm really excited for. It pays a lot better than the job that I have during school, but I'm still not going to be buying books because, as you can see, I'm quite set for basically the rest of the year. I'm sure I will acquire some more throughout the rest of the year, but nothing to this amount. But yeah, thank you so much for sticking through this video. I know it's very long, but I was just very excited to show you all of the books that I have gotten this year. I want to say a big thank you to my partner who has treated me to a bunch of books because he knows the way to my heart. He did buy quite a few for me this year, so thank you, Keith. I love you. But yes, this is already a very long video. I want to also thank you if you watched this because I know I am still new to this whole booktube thing, but I'm really excited to hopefully get back into it, or hopefully get into it rather, now that school is over for the summer. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys hopefully in my next one. Bye!